Now, turning back to the issue of jobs, your home state has been hit now twice with Katrina and the oil spill. First, tell me, are the jobs starting to, is the job market improving? What's the state of affairs in Louisiana?
Well, thank you for asking. Louisiana's job market was improving until the oil spill hit, and now we've been hit again by the moratorium on offshore oil and gas drilling that lasted for over 6 months, and now it is a weak recovery of drilling taking place. And we host, 80% of the offshore drilling in the nation is done off the coast of Texas and Louisiana. So we're very hard hit, not only by the spill, by the moratorium. But it's, we're coming back slowly, from that. Interestingly, after a disaster like Katrina, while there's an immediate loss of literally tens of thousands, if not 100,000 jobs, there are jobs created in the cleanup and rebuilding and recovery. So Louisiana is somewhat fortunate that even with the storms and the hit with the spill, that our economy is still a little bit stronger than nationally. But America has to create more jobs in the private sector. That's why I led the effort on the Small Business Jobs Creation Bill. Businesses need a couple of things. They need, consistency in the tax code. To know what they're going to pay and when, and the longer out vision we can give them of that, the better. They need a minimum regulation. We're going to look and see if we can cut back on some of the regulations. And they need access to capital. These small businesses are still, in many instances, fighting to find capital to expand and grow. And so that's why we pushed out the $30 billion new Treasury program for lending that could leverage as much as $300 billion in loans through banks, not to banks, through banks, to get to small businesses on Main Street. So we're hoping as that program rolls out this spring and to, into this year, that we'll see some real benefit. Keeping fees low on small business lending also helps. We've seen an uptick in borrowing, which is very, very good for small businesses out in the hinterlands. So, but we've just got to do it all. We do have to invest in infrastructure. We do have to keep our eye on education investments, particularly creating the workforce we need for the technology future that is before us. And I think some of our business executives are quite concerned about the level or the low level of engineers that we're graduating, mathematicians, scientists, et cetera. And so it really is tough because, we've got to cut back in some areas but invest in others and do this while, keeping our eye on creating jobs in the private sector.
Well, you mentioned education in terms of preparing the workforce for the future jobs. Education's been an area where some bipartisan work has been achieved. Are you hearing signals on that one, that maybe something can be produced and passed?
Yes, actually I think this might be one of the most promising areas where Democrats and Republicans could come together in the reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary Act. It was a bill that was actually put together under Bill Clinton's presidency, extended through George Bush's presidency, and now extended through Obama and President Obama. And all three of these presidents had something in common, despite different parties. They understood that sending money to the states just by a pure formula those days were over with. We were going to send money to states based on results, with accountability, expecting success from our investment, not accepting failure. And that positive theme has been reflected in many different programs, but that is the program, Leave No Child Behind, which was called under George Bush, is going to be reauthorized. There'll be some changes, but the good news is the federal government's 10 cents on every dollar we contribute. We want to leverage that 10 cents to make sure that the schools in every state and every county are doing the very best they can to provide a quality, high caliber education for every child. And it doesn't just happen at the school level, but schools and teachers are very, very important in the development of a child's education. I mean, families are important, parents are important, the community as a whole. But I think that there is a consensus growing about the reauthorization of that, some of the models of reform that are working, taking those models and scaling them up.